Good morning. In this paper of TYBA Compulsory English, today we are going to discuss or we are going to talk about or learn about the poem composed by John Keats. So John Keats belongs to the Romantic age. We know that a Romantic period of English literature, it starts after the outbreak of French Revolution in 1789 and it lasts up to 1832. So John Keats, being a Romantic poet, his poetry consists of or comprises characteristics of Romantic literature. We know that a Romantic age or Romantic period, as far as writing or poetry is concerned, three dominant features can be found. First one is supernaturalism, second one is love of nature, and the third one is importance given to imagination. So these three are the characteristics of Romantic age or Romantic period. In literature we came across or we can found these three traits or three major characteristics, we can say in other words. So supernaturalism is there can be love of nature, and there can be element of imagination. So imagination is given much importance by the Romantic writers. So John Keats, being a Romantic poet, in the present poem La Belle Dame Sans Merci, we are going to witness the mingling of all these elements in the poem. So John Keats was born in 1795 and died at 1821. John Keats is a sort of poet. In his poetry one can see the depiction of Greek literature, Greek work, that is, we call it as Hellenic. So La Belle Dame Sans Merci is a title or poem modeled upon a French ballad. So it is a sort of ballad. It is based on French song. So La Belle Dame Sans Merci is a title taken from the French, and it means a beautiful lady or beautiful woman without a mercy. The poem is divided into 12 stanzas. Each stanza contains 4 lines and it has a rhyme scheme of A, B, C, B. The poem seems to be very simple, but the poem has multiple themes. It is a complex one. In this poem, the poet tells us about the deception in love. The poem tells us about seduction. Poem tells us about his own personal experience about the love, how he was fallen in love and how he was disillusioned or deceived in love. So in this poem there are the two speakers. The first two stanzas are uttered by a traveler who met a knight on a hillside. It is a cold hillside, and on that cold hillside there is a knight at arms. And there is interaction between a traveler and a knight. The traveler asks the knight about the cause of his sorrows and suffering. Why knight is so melancholic? Why knight is so sad? And why knight is so sorrowful? So the knight answered the traveler. Knight tells him about his sorrows and suffering. Knight tells him about the cause of his sorrows and suffering, and we come to know about the account of the knight where he met a beautiful lady, and then he falls in love of that beautiful lady, and after that the beautiful lady deceived him. So this is a sort of a poem which tells about the love, beauty and youth are temporary. They are fleeting, they are not permanent, they are not everlasting. They are transitory or momentary in nature. So being a 12 stanzas, it has a simple structure. It has a rhyme scheme of A, B, C, B. It has a quatrain, and figures of speech have been used by the poets like metaphor. Then we are going to come across assonance and consonance. So we are going to discuss the poem as per the stanzas described or given in the poem. So first stanza of the poem is, "Oh, what can ail the knight at arms?" So here the traveler who met the knight at arms. The opening line of the poem tells us about the physical condition of the knight. The knight at arms means the knight who is there with his attire, the knight who is there with his arms. So knight is fully armed and he is not happy. So that is why the traveler asked him the question, what is the problem? What is the cause of your sorrows and suffering? What is the reason that you are melancholic? O night, what can ail the night at arms, alone and palely loitering? The first two opening lines of the poem tells us about the pathetic condition of the night. So night is loitering alone and the night is pale. So there is a lack of figure, there is a lack of vitality, there is a lack of joy in the life of the night. When the traveler met him, traveler found him sorrowful, traveler find him melancholic, and traveler found him alone. So alone he is loitering on the cold hillside, and the traveler wonders what can be the cause of this alone wandering, what can be the cause of his sorrows, what can be the cause of his suffering. Then the sage has withered from the lake, and no birds sing. So then the second two lines of the first stanza tells us about that the sage has withered leaves, SEDG. A sage is a kind of leafy plant. So this leafy plant is withered, this leafy plant is no more green, and no birds are there. It means the birds are about to migrate, or birds have migrated. Being a cold, no animals or not birds are there. Birds have migrated, and only the night is loitering there, only night is wandering there, palely only night is there. And so everywhere there is cold, everywhere there can be, you can say the frost can be there, and due to their impact of weather, the leafy flower has been withered and all the birds have migrated. So it tells us about it gives us it tells about the condition of the night. The night is alone there, no one is there. All have resorted to a different place because of the cold, but only the night is there. And the traveler asks him what is the problem, what is the question, what is the thing that troubles him, and he is wandering there alone. Then in the next stanza, in the second stanza, oh, what can ail the night at arms? Once again the line is repeated, the first line is once again repeated, and the traveler once again asks him, what can ail thee? What is your problem? What is the cause of your sorrow and suffering? So haggard and so woe begone. So night is haggard, night is tired, night is exhausted, and physical condition of the night has been presented in the first two stanzas. The night at arms is not night at arms is not fresh. Night at arms is not in a joyous mood. He is in a pathetic condition, and he is tired, he is fatigued. Then after that, and so woe begone. So woe begone stands for very sad in appearance. So traveler, how he finds the night at arms at hillside has been depicted in the first two stanzas. So traveler tells us about the pitiful condition or the pathetic condition of the night. So night is alone there, he is loitering alone there, it is a cold climate, all the birds have migrated, and only the night is there, and his physical appearance is presented before us. Night is haggard, night is fatigued, night is tired, and is very sad in appearance. We begone stands for a sad in appearance. The squirrel's granary is full and the harvest is done. So it has a reference that the harvest is done, the season of harvest is over, and the squirrel's granary full means everything is over now, the harvest is over, that season is over now, and the farmers have filled their granary with crop. Then the next third stanza, in third stanza, the traveler tells us about the night. He says, I see lily on thy brow. So lily is a symbol of sorrow. Lily is a symbol of death. So here lily has been used as a symbol of death. So physical condition of the night has been presented through the images like withered seeds, through the images like birds through the image like lily. So the poet here depicts, or the poet here presented before us a knight who is pathetic, knight who is without any life, knight who is without any vitality. And lily is the traditional symbol of death. So he is on the verge of death, or he is like dealing the life as if life in death. Death in life. Then with anguish moist and pure dew, and on thy cheeks fading rose, fast withered too. After that, the night at arm has been described by the traveler as fading rose. So rose is a symbol of youth. Rose is a symbol of life. Rose is a symbol of beauty. But the fading rose stands for, this rose is not a bloomed rose. This rose is not a fresh rose. So this rose presented here as a symbol of death. So pathetic condition of the night has been presented in the first three stanzas of the poem. In the first three stanzas, the speaker is a traveler. This is interaction or dialogue between the traveler and the knight. The traveler is curious to know what can be the cause of sorrow and suffering of the knight, and that is why he asked him, what can ail thee, knight at arms? And how the knight at arms was there, it is presented through the symbol of or image of lily and fading rose. So lily is a symbol of death, and fading rose also is a symbol of death. The ordinary rose is a symbol of life. Ordinary rose is a symbol of beauty. Ordinary rose is a symbol of youth. But here the fading rose stands for death. After first three stanzas, now the knight is going to address, the knight is going to speak, knight is going to present before us. So cause of his sorrows and suffering. In the first three opening stanzas, the traveler asks the knight. The traveler wants to know the reason why knight is sorrowful, why knight is sad, and to these questions knight answers. So now after this, knight is going to speak and the traveler is going to listen. So we have to keep in mind there are two speakers in the poem. The first speaker is the traveler. The traveler asks the knight about his bad appearance, about his bad physical condition. The knight is on the deathbed, knight is on the verge of death, knight is without any vitality, without any energy. And what is the cause of his sorrow and suffering has been stated by in the rest of the poem by the knight. So these are the answers given to the questions that have been asked by the traveler. And the knight says that, I met a lady in the midst. In the opening line of the fourth stanza, the knight tells us about what is the reason of his sorrowful condition, what is the reason of his pitiful condition, who is responsible for his plight, who is responsible for his wretchedness. And here tells us that in a meadow he met a lady. Then he describes us the physical condition of the lady. He tells us about the beauty of the lady, full, beautiful, a fairy child. So that lady whom the knight had made was not an ordinary lady. She was like fairy child. It means she was very beautiful. She was very attractive. And the poet was enthralled when he came across the beautiful lady. Her hair was long, her foot was light, her eyes were wild. The traveler is answered here by the knight. The knight tells him that the lady was very beautiful. Her hair was long, her eyes were wild, and her feet was light. So this stanza tells us about the beauty of the woman or the girl whom the knight had met in the meadows. Then the next stanza, the knight answered, I made a garland for her head. So the poet or the knight offered her garland. So this is the gift given by the poet to his beloved. The lady he had met in a jungle, the lady he had met on a meadow, the knight offered her a garland. And bracelets too, not only garland, but knight offered her bracelet also. So we have to keep in mind, we have to remember how the knight made the beautiful lady and what effect or how the beautiful lady attracted the knight towards her, and knight fall in her love, and being a lover he gifted her a garland and a bracelet and fragrant zones. Though garland and bracelet were made of sweet flowers, smelling flowers, sweet smelling flowers. She looked at me as she did love and made sweet moan. So she also responded to the gesture of love, and she looked at the knight, and her gaze was suggesting that she also loved the knight. I set her on my pacing steed. So after that, knight took her on her horse and they set out for a ride. So pacing steed here stand for horse. Pacing steed. So knight took her for a ride. The beautiful woman, the beautiful lady whom the knight had met in a meadow, on the meadow. Then knight was captivated by that beautiful lady, that beautiful woman, and knight realized that he is in love, and he also was sure that lady also loves him, and as a lover he offers her garland, as a lover he offers her bracelet, and not only this, but he also took her on her horseback and both set out for a ride. And nothing else saw all day long, for sidelong would she bend and sing a fairy's song. For the whole day, knight and the beautiful lady were together. They were riding on the horse, and while they were riding on the horse, beautiful lady was singing a song. And that the song that was sung by the beautiful lady were not an ordinary song, as if they were the song of a fairy child or a fairy song. In the next stanza, the poet writes, she found me roots of relish sweet. Relish sweet. So relish here stands for enjoyment. So the knight was given something to eat, something to drink by that beautiful lady, and honey, wild and manna dew. So knight was given manna dew. So manna dew stands for nectar. So it is a sort of a drink that is been consumed by the god. It means that the knight was given a sort of a drink to the drink for a drink to drink him that can be only consumed by the god, that can be only used by the god. It means it stands for a rare experience, it stands for a rare thing. So the knight was offered manna dew, knight is offered a nectar by the beautiful lady, and sure in a language strange she said, I love thee, true. So the knight heard that. Knight was unable to understand her language, but the knight realized that she said that she loves the knight. After that, she took me her elfin grot. Elfin grot. So grot stands for cave, and elfin means which is made by elf. Elf means sort of god or goddesses. So see, after that the knight was taken to the elfin grot by that beautiful lady, and at Elfingrot, and there she swept aside full of sorrow. There also the knight and the beautiful lady spent time together, and there knight heard that beautiful lady was weeping there, and she was in pain. And there I shut her wild eyes with kisses for, in order to console the beautiful lady, in order to calm the beautiful lady, in order to stop her crying. The knight asked her or suggested her not to cry. So words has been used that. And there I shut her wild eyes with kisses for. And in the next stanza, and there she lulled me asleep. After some time, the beautiful lady made knight asleep. The knight was fallen asleep, and in dream, and there I dreamed, betide. Betide means what is going to happen. Betide means what is going to happen. In that dream, the poet saw what is going to happen. So what calamity will be there? He dreamed a vision, or he saw in a dream what is going to be there. He is in Elfingrot, he is sleeping there, he is fast asleep, and in that dream he saw what is going to be in his life after some days or after some time. The latest dream I ever dreamed on the cold hillside. In dream he saw himself on the cold hillside. I saw in that dream, the poet or the knight I saw pale kings and princes, two pale warriors, death pale were they all. They cried, La belle dame sans mercy, hath thee in thrall. So in dream the poet saw not only himself, but the poet saw number of princes, number of kings, number of warriors, and all of them together were saying to the poet that you have been deceived, you have been captivated, you have been enslaved, you have been enthralled by La belle dame sans mercy, means a beautiful woman without a mercy or without kind heart. It means that the poet was not the first person who met the beautiful lady and fallen in love. But there were a number of persons, number of knights, number of kings, number of warriors, number of princes who were enslaved by that beautiful woman. So beautiful woman captivated knights, beautiful woman captivated kings, beautiful woman captivated prince or princess because of her, out of her beauty. She deceived all of them, and all warned the poet that what is going to happen. All told the poet that you have been deceived, you have been cheated, you have been fooled by the beautiful woman. So it tells us that how the poet here touches the theme of love and deception. So he met a lady, he fall in love with that lady, and finally he was deceived, he was cheated. So this lady also stands for witch, W-I-T-C-H. Then in the next stanza, I saw their starlights in the gloam, with horrid warning gaped wide. So the poet noticed the faces of the knights. The poet notices the faces of knights. Poet notices the faces of warriors and kings and princes. All were pale, and with horrid warning gaped wide. Their faces, their mouth were wide open, as if they wanted to warn the poet about the calamity that is going to befall upon him. And I awoke and found me here on the cold hillside. When the poet got up, when he awake from the sleep, instead of finding himself in a cave, he had fallen asleep in a cave, but when he got up, when he awake, he found himself on a cold hillside. And this is why I sojourn here, Sojourn means to stay. And so the poet, the knight has been deceived in love. The knight has been enslaved by the beautiful woman. Knight has been captivated by the beautiful woman who has no kind heart, and that is why he is going to stay there, he is going to sojourn there, alone and palely loitering. So he is going to live there forever. He is going to loiter there. He is going to be alone there. Isolatory life is going to be part of his destiny. So nobody is going to partake in his sorrow. Nobody is going to lessen down his grief. So he has to suffer for what he has done. So his mistake was, his fault was that he was fallen in love and he was deceived, he was cheated in love. Though the siege has withered from the lake and no birds sing. So nobody is there on the hillside. Birds have migrated. It is winter season. There is a cold everywhere. The leafy flower has no leaf, and the poet has no option but he has to stay there. So the poem is a sort of this poem deals with the two aspects of love, that is the sad aspect and joyous aspect. The first half of the poem tells us about the joy aspect of the love, and the second half of the poem deals with the sad aspect of the love. The joy aspect of the poem, or the joy aspect of the love, is where the poet made the beautiful girl, beautiful lady. They ride together, they stay together at the Elfin Grot. After that, she offered him Menadieu, and the poet also took her on her horse. Not only did the poet also offers her or gifted her bracelet and garland. So this is joy aspect of love. And the sad aspect of the love is that how she is betrayed, how he is betrayed and how he is deceived in love. So it also has a personal touch. It tells us about the horrible relationship of the poet with his beloved. So poet has some personal experiences that has been shared through this poem. The sad and joy aspect of the poem has been depicted in the poem. The poet himself is not deceived. The poet alone is not there. Number of kings, warriors and princes have been deceived. All of them were attracted toward the beautiful woman, but finally all of them going to be there, all of them going to be suffer, all of them going to be live in a miserable condition, all of them are going to be lead a delightful life because they have been deceived the love. So the theme of the poem is that it tells us about the love, it tells us about the deception in love, it also tells us about that beauty, youth and joy are temporary. They are not going to be with human beings forever. They are not everlasting. So message of the poem is that youth, beauty and joy are temporary things. Love it is impossible for human beings to get pure love. Deception can be there, and deception can lead towards the destruction.